Welcome everybody back to the realm. I am your host, the Goat King, and today we're diving back into the Starfinder 2nd Edition playtest. Today we're getting started on the Operative. Here we are. I get he's an android, but they could have given him pants. You know? You're a focused and quick-witted professional who thrives in high-stakes combat. Your deadly aim and tactical training give you an edge over the competition. For you, even the most powerful enemy is just another mark to take out. You have impressive prowess in your chosen field of specialization. Let's see, they are a dexterity-based class with 8 base hit points. During combat encounters, you attack and maneuver with tactical precision, whether you're lining up the perfect headshot from a distance, dueling hand-to-hand, or trading fire at close range. At higher levels, you master your weapons of choice and rain calculated destruction on foes. During social encounters, you fall back on your training, speaking up to give strategic advice to your allies, while remaining alert for strangers' harmful intentions. While exploring, you take a tactical point or rear position and scan your surroundings, keeping your weapon ready for action. And in downtime, you train with your weapons, acquire and upgrade equipment, and practice tactical drills for future engagements. In their initial proficiencies, expert in perception and reflex, and trained in fortitude and will. One skill from this specialization, and a number of additional skills equal to 3 plus our intelligence modifier. Expert in simple guns and martial guns, trained in advanced guns, simple weapons, martial weapons, and unarmed attacks. So they're very gun-focused, because they only get the expert for guns in the simple and martial categories, not all simple and martial weapons, which is interesting. I mean, they did mention, hand-to-hand combat as, defenses, trained in light armor and unarmored defense, and trained in the class DC. Okay, let's see. Sharpshooter. You can spot a target's weak points. You gain the aim action. Aim is a single action with a concentrate trait, requiring you to be wielding a ranged weapon that does not have the area trait. So not necessarily has to be a gun, but also can't be one of the big guns that the soldier uses. Let's see. You take careful aim at a single creature that you are aware of, designating them as your mark. Until the end of your turn, your ranged strikes against your mark, using the required ranged weapon, deal an additional 1d4 precision damage, and reduces the circumstance bonus to armor class your mark gets from cover by 1. These benefits only apply if your mark is within your range's first range increment. You can only have one mark at a time. As your operative level increases, so does your ability to aim. Increase the number of dice for the precision damage by 1 at 5th, 11th, and 17th levels. At 11th level, you reduce the circumstance bonus to armor class your mark gains from cover by 2 rather than 1. And at 17th level, that increases to 4. Okay, so this is it's not quite like a sneak attack. It's not as restrictive as, a rogue's bonus damage. I think the important thing here that we're seeing is a precision damage ability on a class that's probably going to end up being legendary in its weapon. And I think that's pretty new. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think the gunslinger or the fighter get precision damage. So having a little extra damage you can throw on does cost an action, and when you compare that to some other classes that do precision damage, it's easier to get in some ways. There's not a check that needs to be rolled, but also a little harder in some other ways. Like with a rogue, you just need the enemy to be flat-footed to your attack, and your allies can achieve that for you, saving you the cost of needing an action. Or you might achieve it by flanking, which you're already spending the action to move anyways. So, I think this lands about middle there. It is a small amount of precision damage. But, that's probably fine, considering they're gonna end up being legendary, I think. Let's see, specialization. Specialization is going to be their subclass. So, let's see. Okay. Ghost. You specialize in slipping into a location, completing an objective, and extracting yourself without being discovered, often utilizing stealth tactics, cover identities, disguises, or spy tech. Whether you're an assassin getting close to your target, a spy gathering sensitive intelligence, a grifter out to dupe your mark, or a thief casing the joint for your next job, you are good at blending in and avoiding notice. You are trained in deception, and you gain a skill feat for deception. Okay, it looks like you get to pick whatever deception feat you want, and that's pretty cool. So you just get an extra skill feat for deception from the subclass. Let's see, the exploit that you get at first level. You're adept at taking your foes by surprise. You can aim at targets that are unaware of you as a free action. If you successfully strike a target who is unaware of you, or has an attitude of friendly toward you, they become slowed for 1 round. On a critical success, they're stunned for 1 round. Okay, that's pretty strong. How often is it going to come up? I guess that'll depend on your playstyle. That's something that could come up more or less often depending on how you play it. And if you're choosing this subclass, you're definitely going to be trying to play it sneaky. The enhanced exploit, which is something that becomes available at 9th level, you avoid detection even after making contact with the enemy. You gain the Ghost Tap action. Ghost Tap is a 2-action activity. Let's see. You take a stealthy shot, then disappear into the background. Make a ranged strike against a creature, then attempt a stealth check to hide. In an urban setting with multiple creatures, you can instead choose to make a deception check to hide. You gain a +2 bonus to this check if the creature was unaware of you or has an attitude of friendly toward you. Let's see, on a success, if the creature could see you, you're now hidden from it instead of observed. If you were hidden or undetected, you retain that condition. And on a failure, you become observed. So, you can use this if you're currently being observed, and you can use this if you are currently observed, right? And in that case, it's not much better than just spending a single action to attack and then a second action to hide. But it is a little better because the second action can be a deception check in an urban setting, so you get a little bit more versatility there. What's really good about this is if you're already hidden, if you're already undetected, is this lets you... Does it? Yes, actually. Okay. If you were already undetected or hidden, if you're already undetected and you attack, you become, fully observed. And then if you spent an action to try and hide, you'd only become hidden. So if you're properly undetected, going ahead and doing this instead of the 2 separate actions means you get that jump start, you get 1 up higher on how well hidden you are, how well stealthing you are. And, lest I forget, there's that +2 bonus to the check. So, that in itself does make this better than doing the actions separately. But really it's just a way to boost something your ghost type operative is probably already going to be trying to do fairly often. And hey, that's nice. Let's see, Infiltrator. You specialize in bypassing security systems, hazards, traps, and other defenses. From hacking a computer system or cutting power to a building to bypassing a biometric lock and cracking a secure vault, you're skilled at accessing locations without alerting security or tripping safeguards. You are trained in computers and you gain a skill feat for computers, of course. The exploit. You cause technological items and creatures to experience glitches and malfunctions with minimal effort. You gain the Sabotage action. Let's see, Sabotage, a single action with the Concentrate and Manipulate traits. You disrupt enemy tech to cover your tracks or gain a tactical advantage. Select a single tech creature or tech item within 15 feet that you can see. If your target is a tech creature, attempt a computers or crafting check against the creature's Fortitude DC. If your target is an item, attempt a thievery check against the item's DC, or the reflex DC of the character possessing the item, if the item is being carried, held, or worn, and the DC would be higher. That sentence is a little confusing. Carried, held, or worn is kind of the same thing as possessing. And this says, if the DC would be higher. So if something's carrying an item and their reflex would be higher than the item's DC, then you care what their reflex is. Otherwise, it defaults to the item's DC. If you're an expert in computers, crafting, or thievery, you can use sabotage on a tech creature or item within 30 feet. Master 45 feet and legendary 60 feet. On a critical success, the creature or item becomes glitching for 1 minute. Success is glitching 1 for 2 rounds. Failure, your attempt fails and requires more persistent analysis. The target is immune to your sabotage until the end of your next turn, so you can try again pretty soon, but a couple rounds down the road. On a critical failure, your attempt backfires. The target is immune to your sabotage for 10 minutes. Let's see. We're on page 88. I'll remember to come back to that. I want to find out what glitching does. Conditions. Here we are. Glitching is a condition that affects objects or creatures with the tech trait, and it always has a value. A glitching creature or object experiences a combination of debilitating effects and moments of seizing up. If you have glitching equipment and take any action involving that equipment, you must attempt a flat check to see what occurs. If you have the glitching condition on yourself, you must attempt this flat check at the beginning of every round. The DC of the flat check equals 10 plus your glitching value or the item's glitching value. Okay, so on a critical success, you reduce your glitching value by 1. Cool. On a normal success, you act as normal or use your equipment as normal. On a failure, you take an item penalty to all your checks and DCs equal to your glitching value or the glitching value of the item you're attempting to use. You take an item penalty to all your checks and DCs equal to your glitching value. Okay, that's if you have the glitching value, or the glitching value of the item you're attempting to use. I assume that would only apply to the actions you're doing with the item, but that isn't super clear here, so that might be something to clarify. On a critical failure, you count as stunned 1 for the round. Alternatively, the glitching object you tried to use doesn't function, and you lose the actions you took to attempt to use it. Okay. It seems to confirm that the failure effect was meant to be for specifically the actions for the use of the item, but anywho. Let's go back. And the enhanced exploit for the infiltrator. You can use sabotage as a free action whenever you critically hit a tech creature with a melee attack or a ranged attack in your first range increment, targeting the triggering creature. You can use sabotage as a reaction whenever a creature wielding a tech weapon or a tech creature critically fails a melee attack roll against you, targeting the triggering weapon or creature. Okay, that seems like it'll come up all the time and be super useful. In a sci-fi setting, you're probably going to be fighting robots and stuff with some frequency. Being able to sabotage them directly and also their attacks against you, that's nice. But that'll happen at level 9, of course. Let's see, Skirmisher. You specialize in close quarters missions that require you to operate in crowded and tight spaces, such as inside buildings or vehicles, down narrow alleys, and within crowds. Whether you're a mugger, a bodyguard, an assassin, or an urban mercenary, you favor pistols and can use them efficiently in tight spaces. You're trained in acrobatics and gain a skill feat for acrobatics. Your exploit. You are adept at utilizing pistols in close combat and can employ them while in a fight just as well as some might use a sword. Your ranged strikes with one-handed ranged weapons don't trigger reactions that are triggered by a ranged attack. You gain the hair trigger feat as a bonus feat. Let's go take a look at that real quick. Hair trigger, it's a reaction. A creature within your first range increment uses a manipulate action or a move action, makes a ranged attack, or leaves a square during a move action, and you're wielding a gun. You attempt a ranged strike against the target creature. If your attack is a critical hit and the trigger was a manipulate action, you disrupt that action. The strike does not count towards your multiple attack penalty, and your penalty does not apply to the strike. The enhanced exploit for the skirmisher. Your point-blank shots are particularly deadly when you make a successful strike against an adjacent enemy with a one-handed ranged weapon. You calculate the damage as if the lowest rolled weapon damage die for the attack had the maximum result instead. At 17th level, the 2 lowest rolled damage dice increase to the maximum result. Okay. When we get to equipment, we'll see whether something like striking runes... I don't think it'll be runes for tech items, but something like having striking applied to the weapon is the thing. But either way, this is also neat if you've got, if you're rolling those extra precision dice, right? Now, if it's the precision die that rolled the lowest, that's not a big help. But if your main attack die, which might have been like a D6 or a D8, rolled like a 1, that's nice. That's a bump. Let's see, sniper. You specialize in targeting foes from far away and attacking while unseen. It seems like most of these guys like to attack while unseen, but hey. Whether you're peeking around a corner, perching on a distant rooftop, or aiming from the back line of a squad formation, you favor sniper rifles and prefer to line up the perfect shot rather than rush into combat. You're trained in stealth and gain a stealth feat. Your exploit, you ignore the volley trait of guns you wield. I think volley was for longbows. If you're too close, you take a negative, and I wouldn't be surprised if sniper rifles have that same trait. Let's see. You gain one of the following operative feats as a bonus feat. Keep them in your sights or scope sight. Let's take a quick look. Keep them in your sights. You always keep a target marked and in your sights even if they move. When you aim, the benefits apply if your mark is within your weapon's first or second range increment, rather than only within the first. Good for snipers. Let's see, and scope sight. Viewing your marks through a scope is as instinctive as opening your eyes. Whenever you aim, you can interact to activate a sight weapon upgrade. That'll be fun when we get to equipment. We can see what kind of stuff they've got for us. Let's see. Back up to sniper. Their enhanced exploit. If you fail your first range strike against your mark using a sniper rifle, that strike doesn't count toward your multiple attack penalty, and you ignore your sniper rifle's unwieldy trait until the end of your turn. That's a big upgrade. That's nice. Let's see. Striker. You specialize in hand-to-hand combat and prefer to fight using your fists or lightweight melee weapons rather than guns. Whether you're a daredevil who lives for the thrill, a martial artist who likes to show off, or an assassin who kills with a personal touch, you take the fight to your foes and use your body as a weapon. You're trained in athletics, you gain a skill feat for athletics. You can choose strength as your key attribute. Let's see, maybe the exploit will do something to help out with them having a lower proficiency for melee weapons. You have here we go. You have expert proficiency with unarmed and one-handed melee weapons with the agile trait instead of with martial guns. So you keep simple guns as expert, but you trade the martial guns for unarmed and one-handed melee weapons. Whenever you increase your proficiency with martial guns, you instead increase your proficiency with one-handed agile melee weapons and simple guns. In addition, when you aim, you can aim with and apply the benefits to a one-handed melee weapon with the agile trait rather than with a ranged weapon. Any operative feat that has a requirement for your wielding a gun also has a new optional requirement that you can select instead. You're wielding a one-handed melee weapon with the agile trait. Drinking game, anybody? Any operative feat that instructs you to make a ranged strike, yada yada yada. That's all. And then you also gain reactive step, a reaction, With the move trait, creature within your reach leaves a square during a move action it's using. You're able to move deftly around your foes, getting out of tricky situations, or managing to put yourself into a place where you can hold the advantage. You step twice, ending as close as possible to the triggering creature. Okay. And then the enhanced exploit. You find yourself able to overwhelm foes that you study. You gain the Overwhelming Strike free action. Let's see. Free action. The trigger is your strike hits a creature you've designated as your mark and deals damage. Important bit there, and deals damage. You apply one of the following overwhelms, which last until the end of your turn. You can make them off guard, suppressed, or make it so that they can't use the take cover action, or benefit from cover. That's nice. I like that, because this doesn't really benefit this character, right? If they're in melee, it doesn't really matter. If they're both standing behind a barrier, they're not going to have cover against each other. But this makes it so you get in and you start setting up the enemy to get shot at by your allies. And that's nice. I like that. Let's see. They get a first level ability. This is outside of the subclasses. This is continue on to the abilities the class gives you. Mobile reload. Your gun is a part of you, and you've learned to reload while performing other actions. Whenever you interact to reload a ranged weapon, you can also step or stride. That's nice. Let's see. Operative feats. Oh, okay. So that's oh, okay. Skill feats. Focused. Will saves goes up to expert. Let's see. On the move at 3rd level, you're fast on your feet, hard to pin down, and able to better maneuver against foes who might try to pin you down. You gain a 5-foot status bonus to your speed. This bonus increases by 5 feet for every 5 levels you have beyond 3rd. Additionally, you gain the tactical advantage action. Let's see. It's a flourish, and it has the flourish and move traits, and it's requiring that you not be encumbered. It's a single action. You dodge, roll, and weave out of danger, leaving no openings as you move across the battlefield. Stride up to half your speed. This movement doesn't trigger reactions. That's nice. I will say, I'm getting a vibe from the Operative that is kind of similar to the Swashbuckler. Let's see. What did were they in Player Core 2? They have a precision damage thing as well. But their precision damage actually... Yeah. I am getting a vibe that they're a bit like a better Swashbuckler, better proficiency in their weapons. Their precision damage is more consistent, and they seem to be getting a lot of similar abilities, except that the Operative is very ranged weapon focused. I'm not sure on this. We'll see. A 3rd level specialized skill set. This is for 3rd level, 7th, and 15th level. At each of these levels, you gain a skill feat, but it must be for the trained skill from your Operative's specialization. Master Gunner at 5th. You go up to Master with your weapon, or with your guns. Expert with advanced guns. But you don't go up to Expert with melee weapons and such. Let's see, Urban Operator. You're accustomed to working in urban environments and can move swiftly through the crowded cityscape. You ignore difficult terrain from crowds and trash. Okay. Key terms: aim, expand, flourish, gun, mark. So a gun, very specifically in Starfinder, is any ranged weapon with the analog or tech trait. Okay. Let's see. Operative's Edge at 7th level. Keen Awareness. Proficiency rank for Perception increases to Master. You get a +2 for initiative rolls. And if you take the Incredible Initiative feat, the bonus becomes +3. Cool. Operative's Reflexes. Master and Reflex. Cool. Weapon Specialization. You've learned how to inflict greater injuries with weapons you know best. You deal 2 additional damage with weapons and unarmed attacks in which you are an expert. This damage increases to 3 if you're Master and 4 if you're Legendary. So just some extra damage on top of what you're already doing. Operative's resilience at 9th. Fortitude saves to expert. Masterful advance at 11. When you use tactical advance, you can stride up to your speed rather than half. Operative's expertise. Class DC goes up to expert. Line armor expertise. Expert. Legendary gunner at 13th. You're known across the galaxy for your skills with guns. Your proficiency rank increases to legendary with simple and martial guns, and to master with advanced guns. Your proficiency rank increases to expert with simple weapons, martial weapons, and unarmed attacks. So, unless you're playing specifically the punchy subclass, most operatives are just never going to bother with martial weapons, because at this point, that is 4 less. Actually, before this, when they went up to master in their weapons, that was 4 less. That's a -4 on their attacks if they're using melee weapons. That's a lot. Okay. Critical aim at 15th. The first time in a round when you aim and successfully make a ranged strike against your mark, add your weapon's critical specialization effect to the attack, even if you did not score a critical hit. That's cool. Greater weapon specialization increases that little bonus damage. Resolve will saves to master. Tactical barrage. You unleash a devastating barrage of attacks upon your mark. Your multiple attack penalty against your mark specifically goes down to a -3 or -2 with agile, and a -6 or -4. Yeah, okay. And then at 19th level, Galaxy Renowned. You are renowned throughout the galaxy for your skills and efficiency. Your proficiency rank increases to legendary with advanced guns. Your proficiency rank for your operative class DC increases to master. And when you use tactical advance, you can stride up to double your speed rather than up to your speed. Hello. Let's go look at tactical advance real quick. Scrolled past it, didn't I? Tactical advance, single action. Okay, it's a flourish, so you can only use it once per round. Okay. But now tactical advance is not just, you stride without triggering reactions. This is just move double your speed. You can still use your other actions for movement as well, just not to tactical advance again. Very nice. And light armor mastery at 19th level. And incredible senses at 19th level. Perception goes up to legendary. As for their feats, instinctive aim, draw your gun, and take careful aim with the same motion. Single action to draw a gun and aim. Mobile aim is that, but instead of drawing a gun, you do it while you stride. Okay. Defensive gunner means you're using your gun as a shield. Not to, shield block to, reduce damage, but just to get that bonus to, armor class. Kill steal. Reaction, when an ally ends their turn, requiring you to be wielding a gun, and the enemy to have been hit 2 or more times by the same ally this turn. And what you do in this reaction is you aim and strike. It's a reaction that lets you get 2 actions out, which is nice. Just, kill steal. Peek's a cool feat. You attack, then duck out of the way to avoid retaliation. So you make a ranged strike, and then you do the take cover action as part of peek, which is a single action. Action efficiency, we love it. Devastating aim, 4th level feat. I'm gonna say I don't like it. Well-placed shots inflict devastating wounds on your targets. When you aim, increase the precision damage from D4s to D6s. On the face of it, that sounds cool, but that's just a stat increase in a feat. It's not particularly interesting, and feats like that often end up being quote-unquote must-takes. It's just a number increase. Of course, not everybody's gonna take it. Someone will go see some of these other feats and go, actually, that's really cool, I'd prefer this. I don't know, it's not a very interesting feat, and it's really just a stat increase. I don't much like it. Okay, so Double Draw is a feat here that I always just homebrew as being a thing anybody can do, requiring you to have 2 free hands. It's a free action. When you draw a weapon with one hand, a one-handed weapon, you can immediately draw another one-handed weapon. I just let people, like, if you're drawing a two-handed weapon, you draw it and you've already got both hands on it. So I don't see... Now, rules as written, drawing them both is not something you could do without this feat. But, like, at my tables, we just allow that because it seems reasonable. But, fair enough. Switch target seems very useful. The creature you are currently aimed at gains the dying or unconscious condition. You're wielding a gun as a requirement. As your target falls, you immediately home in on the next. You aim at a different creature. So as a free action, when the creature you've aimed at dies, you just aim at somebody else. This one's cool. This one's just an interesting feat. Destructive dash, 2 actions. Requirement being you're in an environment with suitable material to tear up, such as an urban environment. You dash across the battlefield, tearing up your surroundings and toppling nearby objects as you go to make it harder for foes to maneuver or to give chase. Stride up to your speed, the squares that you pass through become difficult terrain. And creatures can clear this difficult terrain with interact actions. That's cool though, I like that. Twin shooter, feat at level 8, with the requirement that you have double draw. That's that feat that I was saying. At my table we normally just kind of house rule that in anyways. But let's see, you are especially dangerous with twin guns. As long as you're wielding 2 simple guns, they gain the agile trait. Which is nice because a lot of your abilities require your weapon have the agile trait. This kind of just expands which guns you can use, as long as you're using a pair of them, which is nice. Sprint, 2 action or 3 action. Level 10 feet. You sprint at top speed, whether you chase down a foe or flee a dangerous situation. Stride up to 4 times. You can increase the number of actions this activity takes to 3 to stride up to 6 times. That's pretty nice. You know, I was saying before that this class feels kind of like a gun swashbuckler. Now that I'm thinking about it, this feels very much like a marriage between the swashbuckler and the gunslinger. A lot of these feats are, well, they're just about using your gun in different and interesting ways. Using them to apply conditions, shooting through multiple people. I mean, that's kind of cool, you know? I was hoping for a little more, I don't know, identity, but maybe I'm treating it a little too harshly. I mean, they are making new classes based on old classes, those old classes being based on old Pathfinder classes but sci-fi flavored, and they're trying to make these new classes unique in and of themselves because they have to be, it's a compatible system, so you could use Pathfinder classes, and there's a load of Pathfinder classes now, and they keep coming. So the design space it's a tough design space to work in. There's a lot of stuff that's been done already, and these classes weren't always supposed to be their own unique thing. They used to basically just be a sci-fi version of a fantasy class. So it is a tough design space to work in. I'm feeling like maybe the Operative isn't quite pulling ahead there, but I mean, this is the playtest version of it. That might change. Let's move on to that little playtest blurb here as they talk about what their goals are with this playtest. Okay. So their goals with the Operative in this is they pulled away from the troubleshooter aspect. Like the first edition Operative got a bonus to all their skills, trained or untrained, and was sometimes better at a skill they didn't really put much into than somebody playing a different class who had really focused in on it. They pushed more of that troubleshooter skill monkey towards the Envoy, and they made the Operative much more of the damage dealer. They still have some options for troubleshooting, of course, but they are much more focused on damage dealer. And a part of that is, and something I noticed in the feats, they put a lot of options for in combat so that you always have something different you can do, because you're going to have a lot of feats that all do little different things. And in a way, it's kind of like the fighter design space, where they're just really good at fighting. The operative is really good at shooting. They're supposed to be really good in combat. Yeah, I'm curious how other people are going to feel about this class, because it feels... I guess we'll see. Anywho, thank you all for visiting the realm. I have been your humble host, the Goat King. Next time, we're going to get to take a look at the Solarian. If you take a look at that art, it's nice. We'll get to take a look at the Solarian. If I haven't said it already, thank you all for visiting the realm. As always, travel with loyal companions.